is penguins. Crested penguins. Parent penguin heading home.
The Penguin HBO series is a gritty, thrilling expansion of the Gotham universe, and for those familiar with the Batman 2022 by Matt Reeves, this is a deep dive into the character of Oswald Cobblepot, played masterfully by Colin Farrell. Hi, I'm Ruben from the Ruby Tuesday, and today we're going to be talking about why this show is a must-watch for fans of mob dramas, superhero lore, and pretty much anyone who loves a dark, atmospheric character study. Gotham at its grittiest. Let's start with the direction of the series. Each episode feels like it's been crafted by the directors who understand the pulse and feel of Gotham. The directors bring an old school mob movie energy to the show, but they also keep the gothic noir tone that the Batman perfected so well. Some of the biggest names involved include Craig Zobel, who directed the limited series Mayor of Eastwood with Kate Winslet, which I highly recommend watching. That was perfection. It was great. Craig Zobel's direction here with these episodes particularly stand out for how they captured the seedy underbelly of Gotham and the power struggles within. His direction is precise, filled with heavy tension, and is incredibly atmospheric. The tone is brutal, cynical, and noir-ish. But what makes the Penguin stand out is how it weaves moments of dark comedy into the fabric of this mafia-infused crime drama. It's a balancing act between the ultra-violent power struggles within Gotham's criminal underworld and Cobblepot's more eccentric, often absurd quest for power. It's like The Sopranos had a date in Sin City dressed in the cape of the Batman lore. Cinematography, a gritty painting of Gotham. The cinematography in the Penguin series is just breathtaking, beautiful, and haunting. Every shot feels like a dark painting drenched in shadow, highlighting Gotham as this bleak, almost hellish landscape. It gives you that cold, rain-soaked, depressing feeling you get, or when we got watching the Batman movie. But it's even more intense here because we're spending so much more time in the criminal gutters of the city. Craig Fraser, who handled the cinematography for the Batman, is a significant influence for the cinematographers here. Darren Tierman, Jonathan Freeman, and Zoe White. Barry, Three Body Problem, Game of Thrones, Werewolf by Night, and The Handmaid's Tale are just some of the works under the belts of these incredibly talented people. Fraser's mood and lighting techniques are apparent in every shot, so you get that same ultra cinematic feel. It's like they took the best parts of his work and then infused it with a kind of Godfather-esque framing. I have no doubt that in the years to come, this series will be praised at least for the cinematography. There are scenes in dimly lit clubs, shady back alleys, towering over oppressive skyscrapers, all bathed in harsh glow of street lights or the moody hues of neon. It all adds to the feeling of the city constantly on the brink of collapse. It's as if Gotham is a place where hope died long ago, and all that's left are the vultures picking at the bones. The way the camera moves, it's almost like it's stalking the characters, as if Gotham itself is watching. And then the violence erupts. It is brutal, like you'd expect it to be. Brutal, dark, and visceral. You feel every punch, every gunshot, every act of brutality. It's not just action for the sake of action. Every violent outburst feels like it has consequences, fitting for a show about power dynamics in the mob world of Gotham. The score, a symphony of darkness. Like father, like son, the music composed by Mick Giacchino is another highlight of this series. His father's skill, the composer behind the Batman's iconic pounding score, seeps into his son's creativity. Mick brings the same brooding energy. The music doesn't just serve as background noise, it's a part of the show's DNA. When you hear those deep rumbling notes, you know something big is about to go down.
It's just the beginning.
Giacchino's score feels like a mix of classic mafia film soundtracks, similar to like The Godfather or Goodfellas, and a superhero's epic journey, sort of, but it's grounded in the darkness of Gotham. The music has a melancholy quality that really fits Oswald Cobblepot's journey, a man constantly clawing his way to the top, never quite satisfied, always on the edge. And then there are those moments where the composer knows and is skilled enough to pull back the music, leaving you in uncomfortable silence, only to return with much more pounding intensity. It's like the heartbeat matching the tension of a scene. Honestly, the score in this series could easily stand on its own as a compelling piece of work, but paired with the visuals, it just doubles down on the tone perfectly. Oh, my back. Colin Farrell as Oswald Cobblepot. I would say this is a career-defining role, except every role he does, whether it's film or TV series, he is just excellent. And that's the same here. This is the performance that steals the show. And I'm not just talking about the makeup, though credit where credit is due. The prosthetics team does an amazing job making him nearly unrecognizable. But what Farrell does with this role is extraordinary. He transforms into Oswald Cobblepot, capturing the essence of the Penguin, but in a way that feels grounded and realistic. He's not the campy, cartoonish villain you might remember from some of the earlier Batman adaptations. This Penguin is gritty, ruthless, and cunning, a mobster trying to rise through the ranks of Gotham's criminal underworld. He's not quite there yet, but we're getting to see that story played out beautifully with Farrell's depictions of this character. Farrell taps into Cobblepot's desperation and ambition, playing him as a man who's always on the edge. Not quite the kingpin he thinks he is yet, but that's the genius of it. We're watching Cobblepot's rise to power, and Farrell plays every scene with a simmering intensity. He's got this wild, almost animalistic energy, but it's paired with moments of vulnerability that make you almost feel sorry for him. Almost. If you compare this performance to some of Farrell's other roles, like his quiet, emotionally tortured portrayal in The Banshees of Inisherin, or his suave, scheming PI in Bruges, you'll see just how versatile he is. But this is Farrell fully immersed in a character unlike we've seen him play before. The Penguin is a villain, but Farrell makes him feel human. We get where he's coming from, even if you don't agree with his methods. And what's crazy is that Farrell is funny in this role too. There's this dark, almost morbid humor that bubbles up through Cobblepot's interactions with characters. There's moments in dialogues where he'll be doing something with a character that is dark, and then his line will be comic, as if he's in on a joke that only he knows about. He's the kind of guy who will make you laugh right before he does something truly horrible. The writing and Farrell's delivery strike that perfect balance. I also have to mention a couple of the other performances. Christine Milioti, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but she plays Sophia Falcone. We go on a journey of crazy with Christine, as she plays a character that has weight to it from the get-go. Born into a crime family, raised and nurtured by them for better or worse, we see the mental instability of this character go through a sort of metamorphosis on screen. It's wonderful to watch every nuanced decision this character makes in her metamorphosis, especially when she's on screen with Colin. Their characters often are at heads with each other, and this leads to some fantastically dramatic moments. And then there's Renzi Filez, who plays Vic. For me, Vic was the heart of the series. Beautiful acting with a character that is broken and hurt. He has a speech impediment, and he has no real prospects in life. That's where we find him at the beginning of this series. He's affected by the Batman movie of consequences that happened before. And so immediately we kind of are rooting for Vic. Vic is the character that the audience needs. Because although Cobblepot, or Cobb as he's referred to in the series, and Sophia are both mesmerizing to watch, they are very hard to root for. Vic is the one that you hold your breath for. The one that you want to protect at first, and then as the series progresses, we see a change in him. The ride we go on with this character is wonderfully emotional, played by an actor that I'll be watching for many years to come. I should mention though that not all characters are made equal in this series. If I had to point out a flaw, it would be that some of the side characters get very little development. Theo James's character Dr. Julian Rush, for example, is slimy and weird in the best ways possible, is understated, but we get very little screen time with this character. And at the end of the day, or at the end of the series, I couldn't give two hoots about him. Whether he was alive or dead, I didn't care. But to counteract that point, Craig Walker, who plays Detective Marcus Wise, is barely in the series at all, but every time he's on screen you know exactly who he is, and you don't need to know any more than this. We get little bits of screen time with him, but we know exactly what this character is going to do because of how he portrays that character, how it's written. So that's why I say not all characters are made equal in this series. The main protagonists are spectacular. Deirdre O'Connor plays Cobbs' mother. I consider her to be basically a main character, or at least a high supporting cast member. She exquisitely plays the mother and creator of Cobblepot, giving us huge insight into the character that Cobb becomes later in life. There are many cast members that shine with the time that's given to them. I just wish we had more time with them. Every episode is an hour long. We spend the majority of time with Cobb, Vic, Francis Cobb, and Sophia. These are the characters that the Penguin focuses on with the 8 hours that we are given. So could the story have been more focused on some of the side characters? Sure, I even would have liked some of that, maybe an extra episode, but not at the expense of the story. If I were to compare to other mob series, Gotham's Godfather, let's talk about where the Penguin fits within the pantheon of mob dramas. If you're a fan of shows like The Sopranos or Boardwalk Empire, this series will feel right at home. It's got all the hallmarks of a classic mob story: power struggles, betrayals, brutal violence, and characters constantly fighting for position. But what sets it apart is the setting. This isn't New Jersey or Atlantic City, it's Gotham. Gotham itself has always had an element of mob drama, but the series takes that to the next level. It's got that familiar power dynamics of The Sopranos mixed with a historical crime epic of Boardwalk Empire, but with an added layer of comic book mythology that gives it an edge. While Tony Soprano struggled with his personal demons and criminal empire, Oswald Cobblepot is struggling for a piece of the pie at first, and then the whole piece of the pie, Gotham. The stakes feel larger, the violence more operatic. I think that's a word, operatic. Where the Penguin really excels is in how it manages to blend the realism of a mob drama with the heightened stakes of the Batman universe. You're not just watching a gangster fight for power, you're watching a man carve out his place in the world where men dress like bats and villains emerge from the shadows. As for its place in the Batman universe, the Penguin expands on the foundation laid by the Batman without feeling like it's trying to overshadow the Dark Knight. This is a character study, a deep dive into one of the Batman's most iconic foes, but it's not about Batman. In fact, Bruce Wayne is not even in this series at all. Neither is the Bat. And that's a good thing. This show gives Oswald Cobblepot room to breathe, and in doing so, it enriches the world of Gotham. It's the kind of thing you could watch alongside the Batman or as a standalone. Thematically, it's all about power. Who has it, who wants it, and what they're willing to do to get it. In that way, it feels much more like part of the Batman universe, but with a unique focus. In a lot of ways, it's the story of Gotham without the Bat. Look what happens when he's not around. Or look what happens after what he's done, the consequences of that. So all in all, The Penguin, a dark, riveting masterpiece. In the end, The Penguin is a masterpiece of character-driven storytelling wrapped in the trappings of a mob drama and set against the backdrop of Gotham's criminal underworld. The direction is tight, the cinematography is breathtaking, the score haunting, and Colin Farrell delivers a career-defining performance as Oswald Cobblepot. If you're a fan of gritty, grounded crime dramas with a dash of comic book flair, this is the show for you. It stands tall above the best mob dramas out there, but what makes it special is how it blends the familiar with the mythic. It's The Sopranos meets Batman, and it's as spectacular as it sounds. I give The Penguin 5 out of 5 Nicolas Cages.
You got one.
Even though I had a couple of niggles, I can't fault the sheer perfection the series is. And as a one-time watch which leads into The Batman 2, I can't wait to watch it again. But in the meantime, I'm going to watch The Batman again. And in case you missed my review of it, I will leave a link in the description. Thanks for watching this review. I hope you found it informative, exciting, and get you excited for this series. Let me know, who is your favorite character of all time in the Batman universe? What story do you love that's been told? Whether it's audiobook, comic book, graphic novel, TV series, animated TV series. There's so much in this world. I'd love to know what you think is the best kind of version of what we have been given so far. But most of all, until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.